Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So the title says, How Black American Culture Lives in the Heads of Other Races. They can never get over who we are. Sometimes I can't get over who we are. It just takes my breath away. And other people come to the United States thinking the culture is going to be all about white people. And they get here and they find out that some of it is about white people and some of it is about black people. So let me get into this article, and it's probably going to surprise, if not shock you. Cross-eyed pimp walk. California teacher on leave after openly mocking students of color on biology exam with racist questions mentioning physical and ethnic traits. And here he is, and you can see this is an Asian teacher, an Asian now, talking about somebody's eyes. Okay, a high school biology teacher in California is on the receiving end of backlash from the school community after he wrote a series of questionable racist questions on his students' final exam. The teacher, Alex Wynn, was removed from his class at the Luther Burbank High School in Sacramento and is on administrative leave pending an investigation into the test, per the Sacramento Bee. Now y'all know this is called microaggression. This man is making an aggressive move toward children, black and Hispanic children, but he's doing it in the classroom where he is in control, as opposed to fighting the children or cussing the children. He is making insulting remarks about the children and putting them on their test. So this is ultra microaggression. Wynn crafted an exam with multiple questions filled with offensive, racist overtones and administered it to at least 4 of his classes. He even included the full names of some students, the majority of whom were students of color, black and Hispanic, and disparagingly mentioned their physical and ethnic attributes. Wow! He called out one student who is black and Mexican in one question that read, "In high school, there are individuals who are cross-eyed, like the name of a fellow student." So he named the student. And another student. So he called out 2 students who are black and Mexican and said that being cross-eyed is a dominant trait for that combination. I have no idea whether that's true or not. Can somebody tell me if you know if being cross-eyed is a trait of those who are black and Mexican mixed? I have no way of knowing, but I do know one thing. He didn't have any business saying that to those children. He went on to say, we call those individuals weirdos. So if you cross 2 weirdos, the 2 students named again, that are heterozygous for being cross-eyed, what is the offspring that would result? Well, I mean, he's the weirdo. Really? You're saying something like that to children in your classroom? In another question, he purported that black culture is popular among Luther Burbank students and made a crude attempt to substantiate his point by referencing the pimp walk and traits like walking with a limp. So now he's throwing the black kids under the bus. Then he said, for some reason, the African American culture has influenced most of the student body, and I don't doubt that. How? In African Americans, they have a gene for the pimp walk, which is dominant, which is a lie. What is the result if you cross that student's name, homozyous, dominant Latino, with a homozyous, recessive Hmong? So he's talking about an Asian student. The Hmongs are Asians or Asian-like. Another question targeted students who fall asleep in class. This man is not following the curriculum established by that school district. He is making up stuff as he goes along. He continued, here at the wonderful school of Luther Burbank High School, we have certain students who love to sleep in class. Yes, and everywhere else too. I even see students fall asleep during exams. Can you believe that? I don't like it when students sleep in class. It's rude. So wake the FUCK up. Well, through much study, I have concluded that the gene for falling asleep is dominant. Not only that some students sleep, they snore in class. This too is a dominant trait. What are the possible offspring if you cross a homozyous sleeping, heterozyous snoring student with a homozyous, attentive, non-snoring student? Now what he's saying is he's got children in there who got the sleeping gene from both their parents. Then he got children in there who got the sleeping gene from one of their parents, but not the other. That's heterozyous. And then he's saying he's got students in there who did not inherit the sleeping gene from their parents. So basically he's saying if the children who inherited the sleeping gene from their parents had children with the children that did not inherit the sleeping gene from their parents, what would their children be like? Will they inherit the sleeping gene or not? Clearly this is a biology class, and clearly most of those children are going to fail that test, and he's going to be fortunate if he doesn't lose his job. 10 minutes into the exam, the principal showed up, spoke privately with Wynn, and collected the exams. School administrators learned about the exam after Wynn had issued the same test to 3 other classes. Even after the tests were removed, Wynn still finished the testing period using a projector to display the same exam questions students had to answer using their own sheets of paper. So that man has had enough of those children. And this is not the end. Those exams were also graded. A district spokesperson said the school wasn't aware that Wynn still allowed the test to go on even after the exam papers were pulled. Officials are investigating the matter, and the exams and final grades of the affected students will also be evaluated. Parents of the test takers were also called. Wynn issued the last test on June 12th and was placed on leave the next day, which coincidentally was the last day of school. The biracial student whose name was derisively mentioned in the Weirdos question said he doesn't want Wynn to get fired, but does believe he owes his students an apology. I'd want him to apologize to Burbank as a whole because that's the majority of our kids, the student said. So for him to say those things is pretty messed up. His parents, Adriana and Sean Allen, said this incident reflects a fraught relationship that his son has had with Wynn since the start of the school year. The Allens struggled to get in touch with Wynn to discuss their students' disability accommodations, which allows him to redo assignments. They also said the teacher would make sarcastic and resentful slights toward his son for missing classes and tests due to his participation in varsity sports. The Allen's son said Wynn targeted another black student on the test who he talked down to before the exam. In that instance, he aggressively told that student, "Get back to work, boy," after he noticed the child was not completing his work. I was like, "Yo, that sounds racist," the student said. "It's like talking to him like a slave or something. You should know the history of it because you're an adult and went through history class and all that." I'm always skeptical about people, especially kids, who will overlook what somebody did to them but make a big deal out of what they did to somebody else because they want the other person to fight the battle instead of them. So I know black kids well enough to know they know when to strike. After word got around about the exam, other teachers at Luther Burbank reported that the school has a history of sweeping racist incidents under the rug. The principal denied any claims that the school tolerates racism and discrimination, stating that the vast majority of our staff are culturally responsive, culturally sensitive, and committed to providing a safe learning environment for our students. The Allens have mixed opinions on how the school should deal with Wynn. While they have had a mostly positive experience at Luther Burbank, Adriana Allen believes Wynn shouldn't be allowed to return to the classroom. Her husband stated he needs anti-bias training to learn how he can better serve his students. No, he doesn't. You can't train anybody to be decent. In this day and age, I don't want anybody to get fired from their job, Sean Allen said. But if there's some sort of discipline, a class that you could take to better yourself, especially working in a school with the diversity that they have, because you have to know how to deal with all kinds of different cultures and people. You should have an understanding that your words can hurt people and put them in a position that they don't want to be in. See, black people think like that. Other races of people would say, get rid of him. I don't want him in my school dealing with my child. This is a black man married to a Mexican. And so he has this all-inclusive attitude. But if a black teacher had done that to some Mexican or Asian children, he would be out of there. According to California Department of Education data, of the 1,574 students who were enrolled at Luther Burbank in the 2023-24 school year, 46.4% were Latino, 23.5% were Asian, 17.4% were Black, 3.3% were Pacific Islander, and 2% were Filipino. Less than 3% of students enrolled were white. So that's why he can get away with that. He can get away with talking about black children and Mexican children. But when black people have had enough, they know what to do. But that teacher, I'm going to make a guess that there are a lot of discipline problems in that school. And that teacher does not have good classroom management. The key to having success in a classroom is having good classroom management. And that's all the way from pre-kindergarten to senior high school. If you can't manage your classroom, no matter how smart you are, you cannot teach. You just can't. So I don't believe this teacher had good control over his classroom. And the school district has resources in place and programs in place to deal with students that are discipline problems. But you don't sit up in a classroom and berate children or their culture. You just don't do that. So this teacher needs to be pulled from the classroom. Now, I don't know what they need to do with him, but if he has this attitude, he does not need to be teaching children. Now, that's how I see it, but let me know what you think. This article came from Atlanta Black Star. They keep up with current events in the black community all over the country. Thank you for listening and have a good evening.